AMD released its MI300X a few months ago, and the excitement of the potential revenue that comes from this AI chip has caused the stock price to soar dramatically in the past few months. Today, I want to take a closer look at a recent conference event where a top executive of AMD shared various updates about the AI market. Let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so the first thing I want to start off with is just overall price action. We can see AMD had a great day on Tuesday. The stock was up over 2.2%, sitting at $202. Year to date, the stock is up over 46%, and in the past year, the stock is up over 147%. So before we take a closer look at the conference, there are two recent updates that I believe AMD investors should be familiar with. The first one comes on March 4th of 2024, where we did see that AMD hires Thomas to expand strategic AI relationships. And he was formerly the former head of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and he's meant to accelerate the adoption of AMD's technology for sovereign AI deployments benefiting citizens around the world. And to me, this is the first time I've actually heard AMD talked about sovereign AI. We have heard this term a lot from NVIDIA and Jensen for the past few months. We've actually covered a few videos on this as well in this channel, where a nice market opportunity for AI solutions are countries themselves as they build up AI infrastructure for their own needs, right? Governments can use it for healthcare market, for smart city infrastructure, and the list goes on and on. So Thomas is going to join to help kind of expand into that market. So by seeing this, it does kind of give me some more evidence that NVIDIA continues to be right about the AI space. And obviously, AMD is providing some interesting AI solutions, so they definitely can grab some overall market share in this space. So this is something that I believe we're going to continue to hear about in the upcoming quarters, even in the upcoming years, as individual nations continue to build up their own AI solution. Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you all for the amazing support we are getting in this channel. We're closing into 40,000 subs. That is insane. So if you haven't and you are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support this channel a little bit more, check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. Now, the second thing I want to take a closer look at is what we're calling local AI solutions, and it's the ability to run AI solutions locally on your machine. And on a recent blog, AMD showcased how you can run large language models on your AMD Ryzen AI PC or Radeon graphics card. So pretty interesting. They do mention you have to have the ROCm platform and the LM Studio. So right now you can use already some open source solutions like Mistral 7B, like Llama as well. We saw recently NVIDIA announced their NVIDIA RTX chat. It does seem like NVIDIA solution is a little bit more easier to use, but we can see that both players are really focusing on bringing some form of AI solutions locally to their GPU market. So really interesting here. And one thing we are going to see is AI solutions are going to continue to grow in the consumer space as more companies develop their own AI applications. On March 5th, AMD was at a Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecommunication Conference. And here, the CFO of AMD talked with various analysts discussing a lot of different segments. What I really want to focus on is the AI space. So the first question seems to be the same question asked every time for AMD, and it's like, hey, look, in December of 2023, you guys talked about an accelerating market of roughly $400 billion by 2027. How do you guys see this? And it's always the same answer. Hey, look, since last December, we continue to see evidence that that's true. We continue to see CapEx increase. We see new applications focusing in generative AI and AI solutions. We see new models. We just did an episode on Meta, for example, already focusing on Llama 3. And we're also seeing kind of people talking about trillion-dollar investments in AI infrastructure, right? OpenAI CEO has been rumored to talk about building huge AI chips that need trillions and trillions of dollars. So AMD shows that, hey, look, the evidence is there. Now, if you look at the accelerator market, it was almost nothing in 2022. That is pretty crazy how fast this market has grown. In 2023, it probably passed about 40 billion, most of that money coming in from NVIDIA, obviously. And they believe this year is going to continue to double or more. So bodes well for both AMD and NVIDIA and any other player that deals in the AI chip market. The real question is not, will this AI market be big? It's more exactly how big is it going to be? Is it going to be 400 billion or 300 billion? Regardless, the type of growth that these AI chip companies will see, if these numbers are true, is going to be insane. Now, a next question was kind of, hey, can you tell us a little bit about the MI300? And obviously, we saw that the MI300 launched on December, and they mentioned that in only 3 months, they have already have huge big players with Microsoft, with Meta, with Oracle, and the OEMs like Dell, Supermicro, HPE also have created the ecosystem. And the last quarter, December, they delivered roughly $400 million in revenue of the MI300. That was mainly the MI300A, which was an APU meant for a supercomputer. But now they mentioned that for 2024, they think this will be more than a $3.5 billion, and they will see sequential revenue increase each quarter. So they're very excited about this space. And this is where a lot of investors are saying, hey, Jose, look, 3.5 billion is just the beginning. This company can see huge growth in 2024. And while I do believe that is somewhat true, I think 2024 is not going to be the huge year for AI accelerators for AMD. But 2025 will be a crazy year for AMD's AI chip. And let me explain why. During this conference, I learned a lot about the MI300X that I didn't know before. The first thing is, obviously, this is such a huge advancement in AI chips. It's probably one of the most advanced chips out there dealing with advanced packaging, that the actual lead time for MI300X is about 8 months, 7 to 8 months. And that's very long compared to other AI chips. So because of this, it does seem like the ramp up process is going to take a little bit longer for AMD. And this is why Lisa Su is kind of being conservative with the numbers because of these huge lead times for the AI chips. Hopefully, lead times can improve in the future, and this can obviously boost. But we can see for AMD, 2024 seems to be more of a starter year for them, and 2025 will be a big banger for them. And here we can see the CFO mentions that they did secure supplies for more than $3.5 billion. But the way Lisa thinks about the business is really long term. When you have a 7-month manufacturing cycle and you have a really broad set of customer engagements, it takes longer to plan. So that's why we have that $3.5 billion for 2024. And like I mentioned, we probably will see way bigger in 2025. Gene mentions that 2024 is the very early stages of AI chips for AMD. Another question is, there are numbers out there for AMD where people are multiplying the expected amount of units that are being built and timesing that by AMD's MI300 price point and believing that's the true revenue number. But Gene says that be careful doing that because of the crazy lead time and the way numbers work. That's not necessarily going to be the true number for AMD's revenue. It will most likely be lower than that due to everything else impacting the overall chip. Now, AMD is normally known for its CPU servers, but Gene mentions that they believe the largest growth driver for AMD in the next several years is going to be the GPU market, aka the MI300X. So again, this does bode well for both AMD and NVIDIA as we continue to see these two tech giants are continuing to see huge demand for AI chips, mainly in the GPU space. So we can see great news for both semiconductor investors. Now, one thing that AMD gets shunned upon is that, hey, look, maybe a lot of players aren't using AMD's AI chip solution. And Gene mentions that, hey, look, we are improving with things like that. For example, Hugging Face, there's probably roughly 500,000 models in Hugging Face right now, and they can all run on MI300X. There was also a question about AMD's AI prospect in China, and there were a few reports earlier this week that AMD's AI chip has been denied by US regulators. And AMD, Gene pretty much mentions that, hey, look, AMD is still in early stages in the GPU market. So while right now, it would be nice if they're in the Chinese market. It's not necessarily needed for them. They're really focused in the other players here in North America, mainly, as again, they've only have roughly 3.5 billion for this year. They're still ramping up in production of the MI300X, but they are working with the United States governments to eventually support Chinese customers with an MI300 version for that part of the region. But for right now, if you are an AMD investor, you really shouldn't worry too much about the Chinese market, as there's plenty of customers here in the United States. But if they do get an acceptance of their AI chip to China, that can obviously be a nice tailwind for this company's AI chip solution. Two other questions not dealing with the AI market though is one, they talked about the embedded business Xilinx, which is down roughly 40% from its peak. And they were wondering, hey, when should this bottom happen for the embedded market? And Gene mentioned, the CFO of AMD mentions that they believe the second half they do expect a recovery, but more a gradual recovery. So it's not going to be a complete recovery, but at least the bleeding will stop by the second half of this year. The second point outside of the AI market is dealing with AMD's upcoming CPU. I believe it's called the Turin, and it's already sampling with customers. And this is one that has another opportunity in the second half of this year. And one great thing about Turing is it is socket compatible. So if you did buy the Genoa or any of the AMD's fourth generation CPU servers, you're able to just pretty much swap the chips and be done with it. Where in the competitors for Intel, that's not going to be the case with their next generation of chip. So AMD mentions that this is going to allow them to build and grab a little bit more market share from Intel. So while we are seeing some weakness in the embedded market, there is some nice tailwinds that can overall impact their CPU server space, and obviously the huge tailwind from the GPU space and the AI accelerator. Like I mentioned, though, most of that AI revenue is probably going to happen in 2025. I don't expect to see much surprises here in 2024. Now, if we take a closer look at PE ratio forward, which is the next 12 months for AMD, it's roughly sitting at 55.56. I personally think that's pretty high. Even forward 1 year, which is the next 24 months, is sitting at 37. So AMD for me is already a big position in my portfolio. It's actually my number 2 position. So at these valuations, I believe my money is better elsewhere. And that doesn't mean that I believe AMD would fall, but I don't enjoy the risk to reward valuation at the moment. Obviously, AMD stock price can continue to go up, but even if it does go up, I still am not comfortable with the current risk in the current valuation market. If I really wanted to, it would be more of small dollar cost averaging over time. So I know there might be some investors that are new to AMD and don't know, hey, should I add at this time? Should I buy a big position? I personally wouldn't, but again, my investment style might be different from others. I believe right now the risk is too high. Obviously, there is the chance that this will continue to go up. As we can see, in the past month, it's up over 18%. In the past 6 months, it's up over 88%. But even with that, I still wouldn't purchase at this price. Or if I did, it would be very, very small dollar cost averaging. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.